What if the most powerful tool for feminine pleasure has been silenced for centuries? Today's guest reveals how the voice holds the key to unlocking embodied liberation and why so many women have been disconnected from this primal power. I'm Dr. Willow Brown. I'm here with my amazing co host, Leah Piper, for the Sex Reimagined podcast. We are so grateful for all your wonderful likes, shares, and subscribes. Keep them coming. And today we have a very special guest, a dear friend of ours, Maya Kova. She's a feminine embodiment specialist and a lead facilitator at the Tantra New York Institute. We're so excited that Maya is with us. She's a sensuality and love coach who helps women and couples create secure and connected relationships. She specializes in authentic relating and embodied self-expression. And she is the creator of Voice, which we're going to be talking a lot about today. And we might touch a little bit on how she is the lead coach for the 90-day relationship, but we're going to be talking a lot more about that in another episode with Maya and her partner.
It is time to tune in, turn on, and fall in love with our friend, our sister, our colleague, Maya Kova.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
Welcome, Maya.
Thank you so much for such warm welcome. And it's such a joy to be here with both of you. I love both of you dearly. And our tantric path definitely put an impact on my personal journey.
Yeah,
Yay.
we've explored lots of Tantra camps together, and we've danced at other workshops that have been really fabulous that have contributed to all of our paths. Maya, I'm really curious. Willow just introduced your work with the voice, and I have watched you work with women and been invited on your platform a couple of times to talk about women's empowerment and helping women heal emotionally, sexually, gain more skill sets energetically. Tell me a little bit about your journey to feminine empowerment. What have been the obstacles in your life regarding having a voice, and how have you overcome that?
Thank you. What a great question. In relationships, I would disappear. I would fall in love and I would disappear in the love and in the man. And I love saying I love love. And yet I had to look at my relationships and what happens to my core and my power and my personality when I get in close proximity to a man and start doing this polarity dance and then go into this kind of like blind conditioning of sacrificing myself and thinking that compromising or stepping over my desires or my truth for the sake of relationship would make me happy in a relationship. And I had to learn that that's a myth and it actually makes me deeply unhappy. It dims my light. It separates me from my feminine radiance and my feminine intuition and my feminine creativity and actually make me resent my partner. So nobody's winning in this template. And so I created Voice a year ago, May 2024, and created Voice because I realized after I've been working with women for 5 years that we cannot embody our femininity if we cannot say how we feel, what we desire, if we avoid conflicts, if we fawn in conversations with authority, any kind of authority. Like what kind of empowerment and embodiment we talking about? And then on the other side, how we talk, because being a victim, blaming other people, blaming patriarchy in all the problems that we have is also not a healthy, empowered, feminine way to thrive. So I started just seeing that there is some disconnect in the modern feminine feminism where we actually don't speak. We either blow up or tolerate. And I'm like, there needs to be a different way. And I personally deeply connected to the topic, and I'm a student on the path myself because I've been known for avoiding conflicts. And not saying the truth.
Not saying anything, kind of like placating, acquiescing. Yeah, I think it's such a common thing that people learn. Well, when you get in a relationship, there's going to be a lot of compromise, you know? I mean, there's always going to be some, but it's not going to be, it doesn't have to be a lot, and you don't have to not speak your truth. It is one of the places, whenever I'm doing somato emotional release with women, always, it's almost like 99% of the time right here at the throat chakra,
Wow.
right between the heart and the throat is where they feel the block.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just want to say, Willow, that working with you, I'm sure contributed into discovering and embracing this. And being on the path with Leah, I always was amazed by Leah's ability to say the truth unapologetically. So you both definitely contributed into inspiring me to diving deeper into this work.
Yay, I love the way the ripple effect
Mhm.
ripples out. Now you get to help all the women who are coming to you.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
I think it's interesting, especially when we're with charismatic, powerful men who are highly competent and know what they want, how easy it is to fall into like this ancient conditioning where women have been sort of trained from generation to generation to put everyone else first and to be very pleasing, because if you're pleasing, that's how you'll get love. If you're pleasing, that's how they'll stay. And so we tend to self-abandon in order to keep that relationship, to feel like we're on solid ground, even though little ruptures are happening in the inside. And like you said, Maya, that can often come out sideways through like resentment, through the tone of our voice, through meltdowns, through mood swings. And I remember being in a relationship where it was so based in some of that chaos, and the relationship was so important to me that I often totally put myself last. And then, you try to be agreeable, and then I would have these moments of just where I would get so overwhelmed and I would have this blow up, and it would be over this thing that is so small and inconsequential. And my partner's going like, "What is your problem? You're totally overreacting." And yeah, from the outside looking in, it probably looks like I was overreacting, but that's because I went months suppressing speaking up for myself. And also, like, when I would speak up for myself, I wouldn't be understood. I wouldn't be deeply listened to. It was like pulling teeth to get compassion and understanding, to try to create a change. And then the worst was being gaslit on the back end of it. Now I'm the crazy one because here I am overreacting about something. And then you try to have a voice and try to have a voice, and it just kind of fell to smithereens. And it took a while to navigate how to speak up sooner.
I think that's a really good point you're making, Leah, around like, I have women come to me all the time. They're like, I am communicating, I am expressing, I am saying, but still needs not being met, not feeling seen, not feeling acknowledged, right? So then we have to dig deeper and like, well, what are you expressing? Like, what are you saying? Does it feel like an attack? Is it not the right language for that person? Does it not relate to their core values? You've got to like learn communication skills. So I'm curious for you, Maya, on your journey, like at what point in your path were you like, okay, this is like a really crucial and important piece of having a happy and healthy relationship that can sustain itself?
Yeah, when couple years ago, I asked my friend who has been married for several years of like, what's the most important thing in a committed relationship? And at that time, I was not in a committed relationship. And she told me conversations, communication, the ability to sit down and talk about your issues. And I heard that answer, and in my head, I was like, boring.
Right. Totally.
Yeah.
And then after I've been in a committed relationship, I realized how deeply important that is to be able, with kindness, compassion, and vulnerability, to talk about uncomfortable things and completely erase the mentality I am right and you are wrong. And that's, let's be honest, that's like the highest level of mastery. Like, I'm not there. I can have a good day where I'm there, and I can have a bad day where I'm right and he's wrong. Right. So, but I'm realizing the value of that, because when I can sit with your pain and not make you wrong for how you handle it, that's intimacy. That's intimacy.
Totally.
Right? Even more than eye gazing. I know we love Tantra and holding hands and eye gazing, but when we talk about committed relationships and what actually creates safety, is that I'm not going to be punished when I fuck up, and I'm not going to punish you when you're not doing something that I desire.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Leah always says, permission to fuck up,
Yeah.
permission to get it wrong.
yeah, permission to be human.
Yeah.
Alison Armstrong has a saying that I really took to heart, which is, what if no one's misbehaving?
Mhm.
What if they have a good reason for how they're reacting? And when you can come from a place of like, oh, that's right, we're all just responding from our conditioning, which has taken decades, and everything that's happened to us is leading up to this reaction, and no one's doing anything wrong. They're, again, permission to be human. And when you kind of stand back from this, like, what if I'm treating this person as if they're not misbehaving? Then our tone changes, right? Then the conversation has a chance to shift, and our ability to listen changes. How do you help people become better listeners, Maya?
I always teach, listen with your whole body. Don't listen with your head, especially as a woman. Listen with your body and listen with your heart. And active listening actually begins with you noticing the tension in your shoulders and then taking a breath, dropping your shoulders, relaxing your body. And I totally get it that sometimes it's so hard when somebody we love, no matter who that is, a man, a child, a parent, a dear friend, they upset with us, right? It's kind of like automatically we take it personally.
Right.
And it requires just a wisdom to flip into different state of like, oh, they are hurting. My task is to meet them in their pain. And it's not about me. Like, I don't have to take that on. Right? I'm meeting them there, and I want to just acknowledge. And active listening is, right, it's a coaching tool. Why it works? Because when I reflect what you said, when I say, yes, that sucks, that's hard, that's unfair, it does this magic to the nervous system where you suddenly don't have to be angry and guarded. It can shift how you feel in a conversation in a second, just simply acknowledging that they are hurting. But what we usually do in a conversation, we saying what you feel is wrong, you making a big deal out of it, or we start defending ourselves. And the problem with
well, you did this. We go on counterattack.
Yeah. And the problem with defending is when we defend ourselves, it's like we agreeing that it's wrong, that there's a problem, right? Versus when we reflecting how they feel, it creates an opportunity, right? For the nervous system starts shifting into your kind of like relaxing, right? Releasing and getting out of that survival mode. And then actually you can start remembering that like, oh yeah, it's not my enemy, or it's not my, I don't know, abuser or somebody I'm healing trauma with. This is actually my partner.
Yeah, I think also it gives them a chance to hear themselves. When you can repeat back to them what you're understanding about what they're saying, and follow up with like, do I have that right?
Yeah. Oh.
Then they can clarify their feelings. They can give you more information. They can correct it if it's not quite what it is, and they can hear themselves.
Yeah.
And I think then they can understand themselves better as well.
Yeah. I also have to say that, so what brought me into this work is just realizing that I need to become better at active listening when conflict happens. And I need to master to be more vulnerable. And I also need to learn to stand up for myself.
What does that mean to you to be more vulnerable? Like, okay, so we know active listening is you say something, I repeat back to you what I heard you say so that we're on the same page.
Yeah.
and then the conversation goes on from there. But what's this vulnerability piece?
So to me, in a relationship, vulnerability is conversation underneath the conversation. Is what Leah said, right? Where we start fighting about something so simple, I don't know, misplaced item, garbage bag, something. There is another conversations happening underneath that conversation. And the conversation is, I miss you, or I feel being ignored, or I'm afraid that I'm
Mhm.
disappointing you. And that is important to name that, because the moment you
Mm.
name that, it brings you, at least it gives you opportunity to start talking from the heart and not from the story. Because we all have stories about how people let us down and what went wrong. But I think in a relationship, leading from the heart is so crucial, and yet it's so challenging.
Hmm. I love what you're saying here, because we were just on a podcast yesterday talking, and I was saying every emotion that you feel is rooted in love, because you wouldn't have the feeling of frustrated or angry or shut down or ignored. You wouldn't have a reaction to that if you didn't have care, if you didn't have love, right? So it comes back down to love. So this is beautiful. What you're saying is like, look, if we're in this squabble, it's because underneath it all, I want more of you. I miss you. I love you. I care about you. I
Yeah, this
want,
matters to me. You matter
yeah,
to me. I matter to me.
exactly. Mhm.
So how do you help people get underneath, right? They're
Sure.
presenting the story. How do you help them start to ask themselves the question, what's underneath all of this? What's really going on? What's the vulnerability that I need to sort of now tap into and get underneath the story, as you say?
So when I started leading voice at the beginning, when I was ready for the calls, and it's not a program, it's literally a space where women, the intention is for women to come in and practice communication, practice saying their truth. So at the beginning, I was like, okay, we're going to do this prompt and we're going to do this technique and we're going to do this, like you say, like how you feel and then what you need. And then I realized that actually none of that matters. What really matters is for you as a woman, embody your truth. And in order for you to embody your truth, you need to find it within. You need to actually identify what is your truth. And I also noticed that then women would come to the voice classes and we would do shares. They would start talking a lot about the stories, who did what, and like all of that. And I would pause them,
Right.
right? And I'd be like, that's not what we're interested in. Doesn't matter. Right? Close your eyes, place your hands on your heart, take a deep breath. Right? Like, what do you feel? What's your truth? What's your unfiltered truth that you maybe never said in your entire life? Like, what's that
Mm,
unfiltered truth?
it
And
is so healing.
yeah, because you will learn techniques, but none of the techniques is going to work when you feel uncomfortable in your truth, when you not approving your truth, where you ashamed to be too much or to take space, where because I saw it very often, right? In Tantra, we talk so much about desire. But the truth is, even if I identified my desire, but I still feel that I'm too much asking for it, it's not going to land. You can learn the best, communication technique and try to act it out. But if there's no space in your body to receive it, you're not going to get it. Something will
Mm,
happen
mm,
that right will not be possible for you to receive. So what I'm
mm,
deeply realizing is that um the work that we need to do as women is to say painful and uncomfortable truth, right?
Can you give an example? Can you tell a story either of a woman that you've helped or a story from your own life that illustrates this?
Yeah, I can give two stories. One story is of a client. She had a very complex relationship with her dad, and every time she would go visit
Like
her
most of us.
parents, I know, I know. I'm like, Yeah, every time she'd go and visit, like he would just dismiss, like he would not listen into what she's saying, or he would make like fun that she's an artist. Like he would make fun, of something artistic and call it sappy or whatever. So she
Mm.
felt extremely right, like dismissed and basically denied in her existence, right? That feeling of like I never enough and something's wrong with me. And she's been in voice, and we've been working through different right techniques, modalities, on speaking up and holding your truth. And when she went, I think it was Thanksgiving, to visit them, and he picked her up, and she sat in the car like, "Dad, I miss you." And that's it, and nothing else. And he get uncomfortable and change the conversation, la di da. And then again, during that time, like he dismissed her, and instead of getting defensive or being upset, she said what she felt in her heart. She said, like, "Oh, like it really hurts me that you cannot celebrate this achievement that I just had at my job." And she left it at that. And the difference is that she didn't feel bad about herself. Like she was
Mhm.
holding who she is, what she's doing in the world, and she was acknowledging, right, the little girl, the hurt of not being seen. So she left. Then she came back for Christmas. And he met her at the airport and gave her a warmest hug and said to her something sweet of like, "I'm so glad you're here and I'm so happy to see you." And she was in absolute awe because that was the first time she saw an opening for a connection from
Mhm.
him. And that's the illustration of, right, like in her case, instead of making him wrong or trying to fix the relationship, she just stayed in her fullness. She didn't deflate it for the first time when she felt attacked, right, or criticized by him. And that is quite a big, I feel like that's like an incredible victory for her, because as women,
Yeah.
we
Absolutely.
That's a beautiful example.
Mhm.
It really exemplifies what you said earlier as like communicating, being vulnerable, and standing in your power at the same
Mhm.
time. It's there's a what there is there's the lack of apology in it, right? She's not apologetic for her truth or the way that she's feeling. And then what that does is it takes out emotional charge, and it takes out aggressive energy or you're wrong because you're not approving of my,
Yeah.
it's
Like it
ownership of what you're
Mhm.
actually experiencing emotionally.
It
Beautiful.
take it's got elegance to it, but also I can see how important being maybe in a group or working with a coach to like process
Yeah.
this, to get to it so you can bottom line it, especially with relationships with men. Because what's so elegant is simply, I'm sad that you can't celebrate my accomplishments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not blaming, she's not defending,
Yeah.
she's speaking in an I statement, she's communicating very simply, I'm sad, and this is why.
Mhm.
And then, you can just gently leave it on the
Mhm.
table. And oftentimes, I love that, like, there's this quietness, right? It's like, it's kind of an oh shit moment of like, you can't really argue when somebody says they feel sad. Like, how are you,
Yeah.
talk them out of that? I guess you could say, well, you shouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
But to have that pregnant pause afterward
Mhm.
so that someone can kind of, oh, yeah, let me just be with that. And then, yeah, and then it inspires you actually to maybe treat a situation differently when you're on the receiving end of that communication, hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, and right, and the choice always by the other person, and by the amount of work that they have done and where they're
Yeah.
at. I think in that case it was very helpful that she left for another month, and that was kind of like the space for him
Space.
to
Yeah.
process and to sit.
Mhm.
But right, like she was vulnerable for the first time, not defensive, not upset, not hurt. She was just
Mhm.
vulnerable. And I think this is the mastery that we need to acquire as women. How can I hold my feelings and own my feelings and calmly state them, right, without making the other person wrong? Because especially in the personal relationships, right? Like, we have so many expectations for our partner, and then ideas that they need to heal all our childhood wounds as well and reparent us. And when we bring that to the table, the other person just feel the heaviness of the burden.
Yeah, it's a lot of
A
pressure.
lot of
That's
pressure.
not that's not gonna make for a playful, fun, joyful
Absolutely
relationship.
not.
There is a lot of that going on though, I think. People looking to be saved by
Oh my
another
gosh.
person.
Well, I
To
think
be
it's human nature too. I mean, you're not going to be in a long-term relationship and not project your childhood onto them. You're going to project your mommy issues and your daddy issues. It's the nature and the gift, actually, I think, of being in partnership. I am always going to hold the post of Matt's mom. When he is unconscious and he's stuck in pattern and he doesn't see me, he sees his mom and his reactions to the feminine through me as a reaction to where his conditioned experience first experienced women. And I think when you can just acknowledge that, like, that's okay. Sometimes it's my job to go, oh, that's right. He doesn't see me. He is in the archetypical woman wound, mother wound. And that's a ding, ding, ding to go, let me just take a step back. Like you said, Maya, let me just see where he's hurting.
Yeah.
He's in a place where he doesn't trust women. And he has a good reason to feel that way. And it's okay that he feels that way with me right now. And then I just have to step back and just sort of acknowledge that, like, I get it. This is hard to trust right now.
Yeah. Oof. Right?
Yeah. And I can also say, and I feel sad about that.
And how does Matt
So,
respond when you do that? Does
we
it knock
usually
him
just-
out of pattern?
Well, because I'm usually feeling, we take a little bit of space. Sometimes I go have a cry by myself. And I don't expect him to take care of me in that cry because I know he can't.
Mm-hmm.
When that cry happens, he actually thinks he's being manipulated. So I just know that that's a trigger for him. And it's something he doesn't trust.
Mm.
So I just go and have a cry by myself. I can do that. And then he may be able to sense it. And then he'll come in and he'll usually, go, let's do a redo or something. And then we both process in our own corners, and then we come towards each other with more softness. And he'll do the same with me. He'll get the feeling, oh, Leah's filling up all the space in this room right now. There's no more oxygen. It's all of Leah's intensity. Because that's how my system reacts when I'm in that childhood wound. And he knows that now. I mean, you spend enough time with each other. Hopefully you can have these kinds of conversations where it's like, hey, this is where I go when I'm triggered. And it reminds me of this from the past. And I always tell people, like, tell your partner what you need to come back to love. When you find yourself separate, what helps? What works?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that Matt's learned about me is just to go, wow, you're really hurting right now. I really feel you hurting right now. And I'm like, that's like always the best pattern interrupt for me. I'm like, right now, because the part of me I hate the most is the one that gets intense and can't control it. So when he acknowledges how hard that is for me, then there's a place for me to drop my dukes, as I like to call them. It's like, I'm no longer here to fight and defend, because he just acknowledged that I'm in that place that is so painful because I'm so afraid that my reaction is going to create a big mess. So that's like my big story. But that's my dad reacting my whole childhood. I adopted that. That is getting better and better, but it's probably never going to go away. Like, I can't just say I'm going to be this perfect person that no longer is intense. That's just not possible. So to have people who love me see that and go, it's okay. Because I often feel like deep down it's not okay. Like, I really am not allowed to be that way in the world, and no one will love me if I keep it up. So it's a really squishy thing we do in relationship. We repeat these
still love
patterns
you,
over and
Leah.
over.
You can do it with us too.
Yeah. That's
So, I think that's getting underneath to, like, the vulnerable thing and just accepting it's okay. We're going to project our mommy daddy stuff. Can we see it eventually?
Yeah.
And then just be there for it.
And what I also have to say is, you have to recognize on this path, right? If you're stepping into the path of owning your truth and living with other people from the place of authenticity, being honest and admitting, oh, I need to learn some skills. I need to learn some resilience. I need to learn some positive psychology. I need to learn some mindset. I need to learn some vulnerability. Right. And if you with a partner where, right, like you clashes together, then it's an invitation for both of you. Hey, let's go and let's learn a little bit more. Let's start fighting or disagreeing in a different way. Let's educate ourselves. Because otherwise, you learn something with your parents. It's been 40, 50 years. And you continue doing this. Like, what? Are you going to do it for the rest of your life? Like, come on, let's upgrade how we talk about ouchy stuff so it can get more juicier and more fun. And I think another piece is for women, it's so important to start standing up for yourself because for me, Leah is different. I grew up in a household where I felt that the moment there's a conflict, I actually need to go and meet the other person to bring them back in connection. And in doing that, what I do, I step over my hurt, I step over my needs. I had to
Yeah.
kind of like,
I
okay,
had the same habit.
I had to be strong,
Yeah.
right? And I
You
learned.
guys both
That
run the
takes-
merging pattern, I think.
Yeah, and that takes a
Yeah.
minute to undo is to
Yeah.
go,
Yeah.
okay, I'm
Yeah.
not going to come rescue and
Uh-uh.
sacrifice myself and always be the peacemaker.
No.
Yeah.
And I think for women, the hardest thing for us is to practice saying no. And I see this a lot in a 90-day relationship experiment where, right, like you can do anything you want with your partner. And when you get a random match, if you don't want to be matched with them, just tell them. And even sometimes for women to say that to a man or to say no to his invitation, that's like a major thing. They never done it in their entire lives. And they doing it for the first
Right.
time in these 90-day relationships. And they practicing with a more conscious man who not going to take that personally. Maybe even tell them, thank you for
Yeah.
taking care of yourself. And then it's like, what did just happen?
So you community, and I'm really curious, like, how do you do this with your housemates? You know, because I know you guys really do practice consciously speaking your truth, naming your desires, and like working with basically conscious confrontation, I think. I don't know if you would use that language.
Yeah, living in community, it's definitely a test for that because you can't stay resentful. You can't just dismiss a person, right? You can't go into your typical patterns. So there's more opportunity to practice coming back to the heart space, talking from the heart, and practicing saying things underneath, right? Like, again, I miss you. I feel like you avoid me. I feel that I'm doing something wrong around you. And that vulnerability, as we know, always brings it's a bridge, right? It's a bridge that then gives us opportunity to come closer. And I think just realizing that it's like it's so interesting. You just suddenly see from the outside of like, why am I holding on to this? Like life is so much more abundant, rich, excited. Like, why am I holding on that, somebody puts dishes to the left side of a rack and not to the, it's like why? And also learning, for me particularly, learning to speak up, learning to ask for something, learning to maybe offer an adjustment, but in a way that, again, I don't have a charge, right? I don't come to this as like, oh my God, you're so inconvenient, or I'm upset about whatever's going on in my life, so let me just project it on you. Just kind of like be mindful of like, okay, can I give an adjustment and can I go and attend to my emotions?
Yeah, because I think standing up for yourself can be tricky because some people can hear, "Oh, stand up for yourself," and that means you get all the right to complain about all the things you're unhappy about with the expectation that someone's going to change and make you feel better. So can you give some distinctions? Like, where have you stood up for yourself in areas where like it really mattered and it was like hard to do?
Definitely in living in community, made me see the pattern that I have, that if something is done not right, not the way I think, I'm particularly very sensitive to being considerate. Like if somebody is not being considerate in my world, I had to see what I do. I shut down but I would not say it. I just shut down. I talk to them less. I avoid them. I'm trying to be out of the house more, but I'm not saying the thing. And living in community has helped me
Right.
realize that that's very hard. Can I just say the thing in the moment?
Right.
Can I say the adjustment? So like that really helped me to see that I shut down and I start separating. And also when I do that, it doesn't help my nervous system to feel considered because I'm
Right.
isolating myself. So who's responsible for that? Me.
That's a really good distinction.
Mhm.
You know, audience will certainly be more observant of this in my life is, okay, oh, I'm shutting down. I'm pulling away. I'm now avoiding connection.
Mhm.
I'm choosing isolation so that I can avoid a confrontation. It's like this, I'm going to pull myself out. And that's a good ding, ding,
Mhm.
ding, right? Of going, oh, that's right. Maya said that's a sign.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So what do I
a
need to find? What do
uh,
I need to say?
that's
Yeah.
a form of protection, right? It's a form of not getting hurt further. But
Mhm.
it's also it creates a block to love
Yeah.
and connection.
Yeah.
So,
And
um,
I would say that I follow religiously in my work the Rumi's quote that your task is not to find love, but to remove all the barriers around love that you built and created. And like that's kind of my mission for myself and in supporting people. And with women, I really want women to be confident in their voice and in their truth and then be able to say it, right? Where I honoring my emotions, I'm honoring my needs, and I'm not leaking all over. I'm not in my victimhood, and I'm not making you wrong or an enemy. Because when we talk from that place with men, they're not going to hear us. They get defensive because man's psychology,
Right.
right? Men, they want to win with women. They want to be praised by how they're showing up. And depending on the amount of work they have done, when that's not happening, they might get dismissive, aggressive, they might shut down. And again, that doesn't bring us that love and play and polarity closer.
Right. Just more
More
separation.
and more
Yeah.
separation. Yeah. And one thing I want to say, what different about voice is that, again, it's not a program, it's literally a lab where every week you learn different particular tool about embodiment or communication. Like we talk about conflict, saying no, assumptions, different mental patterns. And then you practice for 2 weeks with a different woman. So you practice saying things. We do a lot of practicing, even with each other, because that trains and teaches your mind and your body that I'm not going to die when I say this. And I can also notice what's going on and how people respond to me, right? And when it comes to communication, I think the physical experience of saying something out loud, like even in the mirror, creates like rewires your nervous system. So then you can say it to your boss, to your mom, to your partner with
Well,
more
it helps remove the
fullness.
charge too.
Yeah, 100%.
yeah,
Like it
absolutely.
diminishes, you process it so that when you can actually say it to the person, you're connected to yourself. You're not stuck in the pattern where it comes out with all this charge, which is usually what people are reacting to when they get defensive anyways. It's like they're noticing the look, the tone, you
But
know, the charge underneath all the words,
you
which
can
is
actually
what's
see the
triggering.
pupils dilate when somebody's amygdala
Yeah.
starts to fire. God, there was this great book. I can't remember the name of it now, but it was, I had created a whole flow chart out of it to work with couples. Like, first, look at their, like, are their pupils dilating? You know, to read what's happening in the brain, you can see it through the facial expression, you know, around the tightness, or does the mouth narrow? Do the eyes narrow? Like, all
Right.
these different things that we can communicate, use for communication that are nonverbal. And as I'm listening to you talk about the voice, talk about voice, Maya, I'm hearing like so many different modalities kind of woven in, like nonviolent communication, positive psychology. What are some of the other sort of modalities that you're weaving
Yeah.
together in this
Tantra,
platform?
of course,
Tantra.
identifying desires, pleasure list. Leah, the first exercise that I learned from you for cultivating more pleasure. Embodiment and energy work that I've done with Linda Cicera, how to feel yourself, how to hold your boundaries, concept of boundaries, concept of your energetic space, concept of awareness. Because conversation, you're so right, Willow. Conversation starts not when you open your mouth. It kind of starts when you enter
Mhm.
the room. So how you enter the
Right,
Totally.
room.
right. You're gonna read the
And when you
field,
leave the
read
room,
the energy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
all
Yeah,
of it.
absolutely.
right. And
Yeah.
and getting from the mentality of I need to be right to the mentality of like what is it that I'm going to create. And to
Mhm.
me, for women, that's our gift, but that's also in a way our like biggest responsibility because and I saw this with my partner when we just moved in together and there was like a lot of kind of like clashing of space and different things that we need and when I would like judge him silently and be like upset with him, he would respond more aggressively to me. But when I soften into my heart and remember that I love him, he would like suddenly come and give me hugs and kisses or like hold me at night and I saw like, oh my God, like he responds to how I feel. So what a responsibility I have in this relationship in a way, right? That
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm bringing so much like emotional heart in it.
Yeah, right. It's like when
Yeah,
you get
that's so
more
cool.
real, it invokes someone's generosity. It's like it's all that
Mhm.
shift of
Yeah,
like when you get softer, they get softer.
totally. You start to see like the magic that's
Uh-huh.
possible when you drop back into your heart. And it's not just within intimate
Mhm.
relationships, it's
Right.
within all relationships. If you're struggling with your boss or you're struggling with your
Mhm.
housemate or you're struggling with a friend or whatever it is, it's like coming back to love. How quickly can you turn your attention back
Mhm.
to what's at the root of it all, which
Um,
is that you love and care about that person. And Maya, you gave us that one beautiful example, but you'd said you had two, so I'm still hanging back
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
at that example number 2. Do you remember what it is?
yeah, the second one was about my relationship with my partner when we start practicing uh like we agreeing ahead of time that we need to have an uncomfortable conversation on a particular topic so both of us can
Okay.
mentally get ready to that. We're still working on agreement not to discuss stuff when we triggered. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Who knows?
Right.
On a good days, right? We agree that like, okay, we're gonna talk on Tuesday. So you prepare for the conversation, I prepare for the conversation. And then when we come to a conversation, we practicing that when I'm sharing and when I'm talking, I want you to come like energetically and sit next to me. So you're not listening me from your standpoint with your excuses and your philosophy of life. You actually like coming and sitting next to me, right? And you listening it, right? Like kind of like trying to put yourself into my shoes. And I do
Yeah.
the same thing. And the conversation goes much slower and the energy and emotions are more grounded and more lower and
Mm.
then it's so much more easier to be like, "Oh, this is what you need." Of course, right? Like
Uh-huh.
there is
Uh-huh.
Yes.
so much room to right like to actually start finding and building the bridges to come back together. However,
Mm.
right, like to be realistic what I want to say, it is our personal responsibility to deal with our emotions on our own. And I'm really building a culture in our relationship of not dumping stuff on each other and not being punching bags. Cause
Yeah.
that's like, it leads to separation and nothing else. Like it
Yeah, it's
doesn't do
poison.
anything. Yeah. Like,
Yeah, it
and I
erodes.
get what Leah says that of course we're going to project. Like, of course we're going to project certain things and it's like, okay, can I just be mindful of that and bring myself
Can I own
into
that?
that?
In the moment, I can say, "Oh my god, I know I'm projecting all over you, and I know this isn't you. I know this is from the past,
Mhm.
but god damn it, here it is."
Yeah.
Yeah, because then you're at least owning it, and that helps the other
Yeah.
person kinda hold the bucket on
Yep.
occasion.
Hmm.
I also like what you said about, like, sitting next to each other. Matt's always having to remind me, "Look, we're not gonna face off on each other as if I'm the problem or you're the problem. Let's sit next to each other so we face the problem together.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We're not
it's like you're on a
directing the problem at the
team.
other person. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's smart.
I'm thinking of a little tactic too, which is like to name your team. Like, what is the name of the two of you as a team? So that can be really
Ooh,
useful in
I like that.
relationships
I
where
like
you're
that.
always against each other and always at odds with each other. It's like, well, let's get on the same team. What?
I love that, Willow.
Yeah.
You know, something else about this conversation reminds me of what Byron Katie often says, which is, can you speak the truth at the risk of not getting love, not getting approval, and not getting appreciation for sharing what you need to share? And that always gives me courage to say the hard thing. If I can remind myself that this is important and it's okay if I don't get those things that I hope I'll get, because don't we most want to get love, appreciation, and an affirmation for this thing that we say? Like, we want the world to recognize it. And sometimes other people can't. And can we be okay? Can we actually just be happy with the fact that we said it out loud?
I'm imagining some of our listeners might be sitting there thinking, okay, but how do I know when it's really important to say versus this is really not that big of a deal and I could sweep it under the rug? Because when you're on a path of personal development and personal growth and evolution, you know, there's old pattern of like, oh, it's not that big of a deal. I'll just hold it inside. I'll handle it myself. I won't speak up about it. But that could be just a block to your evolution versus like, is it really a big deal? So Maya, how do you coach people? How do you guide people on figuring out the difference?
Yeah, I want to add to the nuance of what you're saying, Willow, for you to address, Maya, because like we're also, it's like sometimes it's a balancing act. It's like, okay, here's this thing and I have some emotions about it. So I need to go process the emotions by myself so then I can have the conversation. And so I know for me, I say that in my head, but then I just end up emotions. I never get to the part where it's like, oh yeah, I have to process this thing so that I can still have that conversation. It gets a little, because we're like straddling both sides. It's like, how do we know it's important enough to bring up versus the other part that's just like, okay, and now I just have a laundry list all the time. Do I have to voice everything?
Yeah, I think that number one, the truthful answer is you're gonna learn. You're gonna learn, right? By bringing things up, you're gonna learn what's important, what's actually not important, and you're gonna learn distinguish: is there actually a conversation underneath the conversation, right? Like, is the small thing is actually about, again, something bigger where I don't feel acknowledged or I don't feel appreciated, or I just miss my partner and I'm craving more connection. That's one piece of it. The other piece of it is to recognize where I need to start working and expanding my emotional palette. Right? Where I need to go and maybe learn different tools to process, where I need to just have a discipline and start grow my capacity to be grounded even when things are shaky or when I'm irritated by my partner, right? And to me, it all comes down to cultivating the self of sense in terms of staying centered in me. Because if I'm safe within myself, if I know how to give myself my own acknowledgement, if I'm offering myself compassion, then my capacity to not receive it from a partner grows. I'm not saying that I'm going to be in a relationship where it's not available, period, right? That's a red flag. But I'm not going to collapse necessarily, or I'm not going to, right, like go on a much more dramatic ride. And I ultimately think that to thrive in life, it doesn't mean to get lucky. It doesn't mean to be very rigid and have systems. It really starts with growing your capacity to hold the discomfort without collapsing. Right?
I really like what you're saying there.
Beautiful.
And I think too, like sometimes when you have a safe place to like process a little bit and hear yourself, you can also come to realize, oh, the adjustment's just in me. I don't actually need to ask for
Yeah.
anything here. I just needed to kind of sort out on the inside how I really feel about
Mhm.
this. And turns out the adjustment was in me all
Yeah.
along. I don't this, and then you feel better, and you make the calibration, and like that you can avoid, and not from a place of unhealthy avoidance.
Mhm.
It's from a place of going, oh, I resolved this inside of myself.
Mhm.
The charge is dropped.
Yeah. The charges drop.
Turns out I just needed to hear this from me.
Yeah.
This is really about the relationship to myself.
Yeah.
And you need sometimes to bounce that off of
Mhm.
someone so you can hear it and feel
Yeah.
it and come to that conclusion. I think too, like self-coaching helps,
Mhm.
like learning some self-coaching strategies so that you can also talk back
Mhm.
to the thought and have some
Yeah.
self-inquiry, I think is also really useful.
Yeah. And right, like being I have 1 year of voice, which I'm like, oh my God, I did it. And it's been a pretty challenging year for myself, but like showing up for those calls, practicing myself was extremely
Yeah.
helpful. What I'm realizing is you're gonna own your voice as a woman when you are self-centered woman in a good sense. Right? What it means is I am grounded in me. I'm centered in me. I'm not like somewhere else, right? My attention is not on 10 other people. My attention starts from me and I'm calibrating what is it that I'm available for.
Yeah.
And
Well
yeah,
said.
and that's right. That's the embodiment. That's kind of I'm feeling myself before I'm saying yes to things. And when I say no, I don't feel guilty because I'm calibrating, don't have capacity. Love you,
Mhm.
don't have capacity.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Well, I know, Maya, that you've got a free gift for our audience. I'd love for you to share what that is. And also, how can people sign up to experience the voice and work with
Yeah,
you this way?
absolutely. So I am sharing a link to sign up for The Voice. And you can technically join anytime. I do open like for a public and do like public calls twice per year for Voice, but you can join Voice anytime. It's ongoing experience. And all the recordings of previous calls are available, and we're gonna welcome you with a lot of love and onboard you. And as for a free gift, I want to offer a free gift based on everything we talked today. I want to offer a free gift as a tantric breath work where you do a beautiful breathing exercise where you contract your pelvic muscles that actually helps you center yourself because this is your internal muscle. So you literally start feeling your body and bringing your whole attention and awareness to you. And that's a delicious practice that teaches you to shift your focus from everything else into what's happening in my body.
I love
Love
that.
it.
So
Love
beautiful.
it.
That's
That
going
is
to be
good.
so valuable. Thank you so much for that. So
Yeah.
generous. Excellent.
Well, we can't
what a
wait
fun
to-
convo.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know. We're going to talk to you next with your partner, Guy,
Yeah.
talking about the 90-day relationship. And we look forward to more convo then.
Yes, congratulations on your 1-year anniversary. May there be many years, many seasons to come.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And everybody go check out Maya Kova. Love, love, love.
Thank you so much.
Oh, and y'all, the episode's not actually over. We still have a dish. So stay tuned because Willow and I are up next.
Now, our favorite part, the dish.
I love Maya. She's such a sweetheart. And yeah, getting women to speak up and to express and to not be an apology about what's true for them, but to actually come to terms with their truth. I think that's like at the root of it all, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's complex. All these feelings, emotions, stories, vulnerabilities, sorting all of that out. It's not so simple. And it
No.
takes some skill and strategy and inquiry and accountability to navigate to the truth and to kind of peel back some of those layers, unfurl these deep-seated core issues,
Yeah.
and then to really figure out how to navigate them and how to get your needs met and how to, have agency
Uh-huh.
and be self-responsible for your desires and your needs and your wants and your truths, all that shit.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Take some You got to learn some things to do it well.
Yeah, and I think it also, you got to learn things, and then you also have to let the things that you learn integrate into your nervous system and into your being. It's like it becomes such a nuanced practice to be able to, in the moment, track what your nervous system is doing, track what your truth is, be able to come into your heart, be able to um without a lot of emotional charge, speak that truth. And so there are just so many pieces to the puzzle that take time to integrate, especially if you're coming from an environment or a family or upbringing or something where there was a lot of just like reactive communication, yelling and or running into the other room or whatever it is, just that those deeper reactions and patterns. One of the
Or
great,
even non-reactions. I mean, I've got a childhood
running
friend
into the room.
whose parents were they give her the silent treatment. They were upset with her. They never screamed. They never yelled.
They just
There wasn't
wouldn't
a lot
talk
of
to her.
punishment. The punishment was, I'm not going to talk to you for 3 days.
Ugh, that's so mean.
And so, like, it looks like, it's not very
Uh-huh.
upsetting, except you feel this huge amount of separation.
Right.
So it can look, just because one family's reactive and another family isn't, doesn't mean that one is healthier than the other.
Totally. Absolutely. And, Leah and I have done a couple of episodes on the protective patterns that Maya has also studied, and she referenced that in the episode she spoke about Linda Cesara. So I think it's a good thing to understand and know these patterns, especially when talking about communication and how to communicate with your partner when they're in pattern, when they're in a triggered state. So go check out our episode with Stephen Kessler. And also we did one on our own as well.
Mm-hmm.
Those are really, really important for being able to communicate effectively.
Well, and also just understanding your conditioned wounds and how you reach for safety that as an adult really isn't keeping you safe. It's just keeping you in pattern.
It's keeping you stuck.
Yeah, and it actually doesn't drive you towards the truth. It drives you somewhere else that's separate from where you want to be connected to your loved ones.
Yeah. And also, I will say, it doesn't have to take a long time. Like the integration of what you learn, if you go do the voice with Maya, you're going to learn some really powerful stuff real quickly. And you get to practice it with other women right away. So that definitely helps with integration. I mean, that is the most important piece of integrating, is to be in practice with what you what you realized and learned.
It's the key to the embodiment piece, is being able to practice these new skills over and over again so that you have a way to freedom, to liberation from the things that are burdening you, and to be able to process that in a way, to practice new tools. Then you pick up, this really worked for me.
Yeah.
Oh, this is what I need. This is a ding, 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 so that when I get triggered again like this, I know some steps that are going to help me get to that place of understanding what's the essential, what's that vulnerable thing that really needs to be said. Just like she illustrated in her story with the woman and her dad, of just like simple, elegant, but it probably wasn't simple and elegant when she started, processing that burden, like to be able to move that charge in community, practice getting to the heart of it, and then from there, having the courage to say what needs to be said. You do that, rinse and repeat. And then it becomes how you operate and live in the world. And it's just a good reminder to me that it has been a long time since I have been in like a personal growth community, really working on something interpersonal. And how valuable it is, no matter how much work you've done, no matter how many workshops you've attended, no matter how much personal growth work you've done. It's still good to return and sharpen up your skills, because these conditioned responses and our triggers and our safety strategies, they are so much more ingrained than the little bit of time we spend on a technique. So you kind of have to keep on coming back and going, that's right. This really works for me.
It's a layered process for sure. All right, y'all. Well, so glad we could have Maya, and you'll hear more of her in an upcoming episode.
Yeah, and do us a favor, share this episode with a woman that you know.
Yeah.
Let's double up our audience.
Spread the word. Let's spread the love. Let's help women express and be content to speak their truth without apology.
Nice. Okay, cheers.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was hosted by Tantric Sex Master Coach and Positive Psychology Facilitator Leah Piper, as well as by Chinese and Functional Medicine Doctor and Taoist Sexology Teacher Dr. Willow Brown. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.